Here is the new footage, Professor Marandi, coming out and showing that the same thing, that proving what you've just said about the Americans hitting the civilian boats in close to the Strait of Hormuz. Yeah, here you see the new footage that shows that they hit the civilian boats. And do you think, Professor Marandi, that with the new activities that are happening, because we had some reports that Iran is sending forces to the Iraqi border, and it seems that there are some sort of activities on the part of the Iraqi Kurdistan. Can you hear me, Professor Marandi?
Yes, yes, I can.
Yeah. Eh, and even we had Iran, one of the Iranian commanders talking about making a buffer zone, a security zone at the border with Iraqi Kurdistan. Is that going to happen? And how serious is that for Iran?
I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen or if that's just a threat to make sure that the Iraqi government uh, uh, enforces its authority, and so that the Kurdish government in the northern Iraq enforces its authority over the border area, because these terrorist groups have bases alongside the border, and the Iraqi government knows this, and the Kurdish government in Erbil knows this quite well. The Americans fund them, the Europeans support them, the Israelis, of course, help them, and they are tolerated by these authorities. So the Iranians are striking them nowadays, as we've seen during the last few months. They've been striking them with missiles, but mostly drones. And now I think that this is a threat that either should be taken seriously, or I mean that it may be enforced, or that it's basically for now an attempt to push the Kurdish authorities in northern Iraq to bring an end to the presence of these organized terrorists alongside its borders. So it may be that Iran is planning to carry this out, or it may be that the Iranians are saying this to make sure that they change to force them to change their policy, but that if they don't do so, then they may move in. I mean, that's what, unlike Turkey, which has bases all over Iraq and Syria, even though the Iraqis and the Syrians, have never approved of it, the Iranians do not have any bases in northern Iraq, not a single base, not a single soldier. So Iran doesn't want to do this. But at the same time, Iran will not tolerate the Kurdish government in northern Iraq to collaborate with the Israeli regime to destabilize northwestern Iran in collaboration with these with the Israeli regime at a time when the United States is attacking Iran. And we've seen an increase in terrorist attacks both near the Kurdish areas, but also near the Pakistani border as well, where the Takfiri groups that are supported by Western intelligence agencies have carried out a couple of assassinations in the last few weeks.
Donald Trump yesterday said that the Turkish government helped them more than many countries in the region and outside of the region. What is the perception on the part of Iranians, the way that Turkey may help the United States during the war?
Well, Turkey has always helped the United States in its policies in our region. Turkey, under Erdogan, Trump said that Erdogan is more faithful than other leaders whom he expected more of, meaning implying the Europeans. So he's saying that Erdogan has been better for Trump than the European leaders. And that is a very damning statement, especially since the Turkish people are completely against the policies of the United States and they oppose the Israeli regime. But we've discussed this before. Throughout the genocide, Erdogan has continued to transport oil from Baku to his business partner in Israel, Netanyahu, to fuel the genocide. And during the oil crisis, that oil continued to flow. As we speak, it continues to flow. And statements like this by Trump, of course, make things even more painful to see. Our expectations of Turkey are that they would listen to their own people, and that they would cut off diplomatic ties, they would cut off business ties, and they would sincerely show support for the Palestinian people and the Lebanese people and the Syrian people, the real people, and the real support. Turkey under Erdogan took part in the circus in Egypt, where they imposed a ceasefire on Gaza that was completely one-sided. And Trump there too said that Erdogan has always been there whenever I needed him, and Erdogan put his hand on his chest, which is very meaningful in our culture. So it's with great disappointment because under Najmuddin Erbakan, the father of the rise of the Islamic movement in Turkey, the trajectory was very different. And when he was sidelined, he did not look at Erbakan favorably at all, at all. And if he had remained in power, and Turkish intelligence and the deep state and the West had not collaborated to sideline him and water down the movement, Turkey would have been in a, I'm absolutely certain that Turkey would have had very different policies today, and the situation for the Israeli regime would have been very, very, very difficult.
Part of the calculation in the Strait of Hormuz is Europeans, and it seems that Europe, on one side, you see the vice chancellor of Germany saying that the stupid war is bringing a lot of problem for the economy of Germany. They couldn't improve their economy because of the war, and it says that it puts the blame on Donald Trump. On the other hand, you see Europeans somehow cooperating with the United States in the region, because part of that campaign of putting pressure on Oman, which was one of the main games of Rubio's visit to the West Asia. He did that. He came, and the statement coming out. Then you see Europeans coming in and talking with Omani government. What is that, and what do they want to achieve with Oman? And is that going to be militarily acceptable, or practically able? Are they going to be able to practically change some sort of conditions in the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, obviously, Oman has been badly intimidated, and it has been forced to obey the United States and let the Americans open a corridor for themselves in the Strait of Hormuz. And the Europeans, their presence too, is a part of this broader project of intimidating Oman and also gaining a foothold in the Strait of Hormuz. That will not happen. First of all, the Americans will not get that foothold. If the Americans even start a ground operation, ultimately they'll be defeated. They can come in, take parts of the mainland, take islands, but they'll be defeated and they'll be expelled. The Europeans have no military capability at all to wage war against Iran, and their technology does not compare to that of the United States. Their military experience does not compare, and their economies are just a shadow of what they once were, and they're moving towards deindustrialization, especially Germany, because of their conflict with Russia and of course their collaboration with Washington against Iran in the Persian Gulf region for the past few decades. So, and especially since the war in Ukraine is escalating, the Europeans have no extra money or resources to open a second front against Iran. And that's why Trump has been so unhappy with them. He's been much more happy with Erdogan, sadly, than he's been with his NATO partners. And that's why the Secretary General of NATO, whenever he meets Trump, he has to immediately start licking his boots because Trump is not happy with the Europeans. So I don't think anyone in Iran takes the French or the British or anyone else in Europe that wants to flex their muscles in the Persian Gulf seriously.
Professor Marandi, today we've learned from the defense minister, the Greek defense minister, and he's asking why is Iran attacking? Why has Iran attacked Saudi Arabia? Why has Iran attacked UAE or Qatar? And this is the country that somehow is cooperating with the United States in their attacks on Iran. And he's asking these simple questions. And do you think how deep is this sort of ignorance in that part of the, you know, the argument? I would say they're on the part of the United States, but they're not that deep about what's going on in the West Asia, or they're not going to. What is your understanding of these people or these governments which are part of the war?
I think they know that they're lying. I think they know what the reality is. That these countries, alongside the Europeans, the Secretary General of NATO basically admitted, as he was, licking Trump's boots, that the Europeans actually helped a lot with the illegal war against Iran. So they have a lot of blood on their hands. He says, he admits with great joy. But they know this. They know what the Saudis and the Kuwaitis and the Emiratis did. Without these countries, there would not have been a war against Iran. So these countries are complicit in war. It's clear as day. But they're counting on the ignorance of their population by saying that Iran started this or Iran expanded the war. Just like now, they'll say that the Iranians are starting this by just targeting ships in the Strait of Hormuz, without providing the context. And of course, many naive Westerners will still believe their nonsense. It's not like it was before, but still there's a segment of Western society that still believes that the Israelis are the good guys and that the Palestinian children deserve to be massacred. You do have that, that's why you have a segment of Americans who still support Israel, or a segment of Europeans who still support the Israeli regime. So he knows this. He knows how, the defense minister obviously knows what role these countries have played in assaulting Iran and destroying schools and hospitals and so on. But again, it's just basically to manage the public perception.
There were reports of two attacks on two bridges, one between Iran and Mashhad, the other one in Al-Qala in Golestan, which two are of particular importance because one of them is connecting Tehran to Mashhad. We know that today is the funeral procession in Mashhad going on, and the other one is the connection. The railway passes over the bridge in Al-Qala in Golestan that connects Iran to China and to Kazakhstan, then China. So these attacks were done by the United States, or there were some sort of internal, forces or agents doing this.
I've not heard of anything except for the news that the Americans have struck these bridges, and it just shows that the Americans are not. The issue is not the nuclear program. The issue is Iran. They want to break Iran. And that was the project from the beginning, and that is the objective today, because that's what the Zionists want. So striking schools is a part of that. Striking hospitals is a part of that. Striking apartment block. And we've had a lot of independent journalists in Iran during the funeral ceremonies. And some of them are mutual friends of ours, and they've been doing reports from these destroyed hospitals and destroyed schools and destroyed apartment blocks and so on. This has nothing to do with the nuclear program. This has to do with weakening the Iranian people, breaking the Iraqi people. Why do they support these Kurdish terrorists in northern Iraq? Because why are they supporting the Takfiris alongside the border with Pakistan? It's obvious. Why were they supporting the armed insurrection a few months ago? This is to undermine Iran, and the war itself was to break Iran. And targeting a key railway line in Iran that links Iran to Central Asia and links the capital to Mashhad, the second most important city in the country, is obvious. It wants to intimidate ordinary Iranians, those who are going to the funeral, but it also wants to disrupt Iran's relationship with other countries, and it wants to break Iran's uh, capability to remain independent and to for the government to be able to govern society effectively.